Chosen one, what if the sender was never the problem? What if the message was not missing? What if the direction was not missing? What if the thing that kept breaking down was the receiver? Think about the last season of your life. You prayed, you waited, you noticed patterns. Something seemed ready to open, then it stalled. Another road appeared, then that road changed too. After enough of those moments, you started asking the question nobody around you could answer. God, if this is really for me, why does everything connected to it keep getting rerouted? Here is what I want you to consider. Not every closed door is rejection. Not every delay is protection. Not every feeling of resistance is spiritual warfare. Sometimes, interruption exposes what movement was hiding. Sometimes the road changes because your understanding of the road still needs to change. And there is one kind of interference that is especially dangerous because it sounds wise. It says, wait until you are completely certain. Ask for one more sign. Get one more confirmation. So you receive more messages while making fewer decisions. That pattern has a name. Before this message ends, I will give you that name. I will show you the 3 reroutes that can happen before a person finally moves. The first happens to the road. The second happens to your interpretation. The third happens inside the receiver itself. And the third one changes everything. Because when the receiver changes, the same truth can land differently. The same opportunity can look different. The same next step can stop feeling impossible. This is not about forcing a meaning onto every interruption. It is about learning what interruption reveals. If this already feels familiar, mark this moment with these words. I hear the call. Do not type it because you were told to. Type it if you are willing to stop collecting signs for a moment and start examining what you already know. Here is the first truth. Difficulty does not automatically mean wrong direction. A blocked path is information, but it is not always a verdict. When something slows down, your mind rushes to explain it. You think, maybe I missed God. Maybe I waited too long. Maybe I was never meant for this. But there is another possibility. The delay may be showing you what your speed was hiding. It may reveal a weak boundary. It may expose fear. It may show that you were depending on one person, one outcome, or one perfect sequence. Friction has a way of revealing what comfort keeps invisible. So the first question is not, why was this blocked? The first question is, what did this interruption force me to notice? That question changes your posture. It moves you from panic into observation. It gives you something you can actually use. And this is only the first reroute. It is the easiest one to understand because you can see it outside yourself. The second reroute is quieter. It happens in the meaning you attach to what happened. That is where people can lose months, sometimes years, while believing they are being patient. Stay with that, because the next layer is where delay stops being a circumstance and becomes a story. And once a story settles into you, it can guide your decisions without ever asking permission. Chosen one. The first reroute happens to the road. A plan changes, a door closes, a person leaves, a timeline stretches beyond what you expected. The danger begins when you turn that event into a conclusion about your worth, your calling, or the faithfulness of God. You know how quickly that happens. Something does not work, and your mind supplies the meaning. I must have heard wrong. I must have missed my moment. Maybe this was never for me. Those thoughts feel like discernment, but disappointment is not always a reliable interpreter. Joseph knew what it meant for a path to look completely wrong. His story does not guarantee that every delay in your life will end the same way. It gives us something more useful. A difficult route does not explain itself while you are inside it. That matters. Many people quit not when the door closes, but when they decide what the closed door means. They do not simply experience delay. They convert delay into identity. They begin saying, I am unlucky. I am always overlooked. Nothing works for me. This is where you need a better process. When something changes, ask 3 questions. What actually changed? What story did I attach to it? What can I still do? These questions pull fact away from fear. Maybe the interview was delayed. That is a fact. Maybe one person stopped responding. That is a fact. Maybe the application was rejected. That is a fact. But I am rejected by God is not a fact. My whole future is closed is not a fact. Can you feel the difference? Facts can be painful without becoming prophecy. A closed door can disappoint you without defining you. A changed plan can require grief without requiring surrender. This is how you keep one interruption from becoming a permanent explanation for your life. And if part of you is skeptical, good. You do not need to believe that every detour was arranged as a supernatural message. You only need to notice that every detour creates a decision point. You can react automatically or examine what the moment is actually asking from you. That is where your agency returns. You may not control the door. You may not control the timing. You may not control another person. But you can control the meaning you assign too quickly, the next question you ask, and the next step that remains available. If this is landing, use the words hidden, not forgotten. Not as a promise that every lost thing will return. Use it as a reminder that delay does not erase your value. Now look at your own life. Think of one thing that stalled recently. Name only what changed. Do not explain it yet. Then notice the story your mind built around it. Was the story harsher than the facts? Did you turn one closed door into a verdict on your future? This is the first breakthrough. Delay is not automatically rejection. Friction is not automatically a warning to quit. Sometimes it is information. Sometimes it asks you to adjust. Sometimes it reveals that the route you trusted was never the only route. But there is a harder question. What happens when the road is open and you still cannot move? What happens when you have enough information and enough time, yet something inside keeps asking for one more sign? That is the second reroute. And this is where sincere people become stuck. Not because they stopped believing, because they kept searching after the searching had already given them enough. Chosen one. The second reroute is more difficult because nothing outside may look wrong. The road can be open, the opportunity can be real, the next step can be obvious, yet you remain still, waiting for a certainty that never fully arrives. So you search again. You listen to another message. You ask for another sign. For a moment you feel relief, because searching feels like movement. But the next morning, the decision is still waiting where you left it. This is where confirmation can become a hiding place. Not because confirmation is bad, not because prayer is weak. The problem begins when seeking more information protects you from the discomfort of acting on what you already know. There is a name for this. The receiver gap. It is the distance between recognizing what is true and becoming clear enough to respond to it. Sometimes the mechanism is ordinary. Too much input, too many options, too many imagined outcomes, too many unfinished decisions competing for attention. More messages can create less movement. You are not always starving for information. Sometimes you are drowning in it. That is why another message can make you feel inspired without changing your behavior. Inspiration enters, noise absorbs it. The moment passes, and the old pattern resumes. If you have heard hundreds of messages for chosen ones, test this one. Ask whether it names something you can observe tomorrow morning. Ask whether it changes one decision. If it does not become useful, emotional resonance is not enough. Think about one choice you have delayed. Maybe you need to send an email. Maybe you need to finish an application. Maybe you need to set a boundary. Maybe you need to begin the work you keep postponing. Now ask yourself something uncomfortable. Do you truly lack information, or do you dislike what the information requires? Because clarity is not the same as comfort. You can be clear and still feel afraid. You can know the next step and still wish there were a safer one. Mature discernment sometimes gives you enough truth to move while tension remains. Picture tomorrow morning. You wake up and do not reach for 10 opinions before trusting one clear decision. You know what matters first. You know what can wait. You take one step before your mind builds another maze around it. That future is quiet but powerful. One email, one boundary, 1 hour of focused work, one honest conversation. And there is another layer that spiritually sensitive people rarely discuss. Mental clarity also has a physical side. Attention has limits. Stress changes how you process information. I am going to come back to that later. There is research connected to how the brain coordinates different kinds of processing, and it gives us another way to think about why knowing more does not always create movement. But first, hold this question. What if part of the fog you called a spiritual block is not proof that God is silent? What if some of it is the condition of the receiver? If that question unsettles you, we have reached the real problem. The third reroute begins there. Not on the road, not in the message. Inside the way you receive, sort, and act on what has already arrived. Chosen one, now we need to look at what happens when the receiver becomes noisy. Not spiritually evil, not cursed, not abandoned, simply overloaded. A mind can carry so many unfinished thoughts that even a clear direction begins to feel distant. You may know this pattern. You sit down to do the one task that matters, then suddenly everything else feels urgent. You check one message. You remember another obligation. You open something small, then lose the thread of what you meant to finish. That does not automatically mean you lack discipline. Sometimes your attention is carrying more than it can sort. Too many choices remain open. Too many conversations remain unfinished. Too many fears keep asking for equal space. And when that happens, hesitation can start wearing the clothes of discernment. You tell yourself you are being careful. You tell yourself you are waiting for peace. But underneath the waiting, your mind is switching between possibilities so fast that none of them can become clear. This is why some people can spend hours scrolling without feeling tired, then become exhausted the moment they begin important work. The task is not always the problem. The internal switching is. Notice your body for a moment. Let your jaw loosen, drop your shoulders. Feel the next breath enter without forcing it. Notice whether your mind immediately tries to leave this moment and solve something else. That movement matters. The receiver is not only what you believe, it is also the condition in which you are trying to hear yourself think. Brain fog can feel deeply personal. You forget a word halfway through a sentence. You read the same paragraph 3 times. You know you need to call someone, yet the call keeps moving to tomorrow. Then shame arrives and makes the fog even heavier. Do not turn that into a spiritual verdict. Mental fatigue can come from many ordinary causes. Stress, poor sleep, constant switching, emotional strain, too much information. None of those things makes you less chosen. What matters is learning to separate noise from direction. You cannot obey clearly while treating every thought as equally important. You cannot move with confidence while reopening the same decision 10 times a day. So here is a simple practice. Choose one decision. Write down what is known. Write down what is feared. Then write down what remains uncertain. Do not blend those 3 categories. Known facts create ground. Fear creates pressure. Uncertainty creates questions. When you separate them, the mind stops treating all 3 as the same thing. If this is the work you need, use these words. I receive clearly. Not as a claim that confusion disappears instantly. Use it as a decision to stop feeding every voice the same amount of attention. And now, I want to place one question in front of you before we go deeper. Researchers have studied how different regions of the brain contribute to attention, perception, and decision-making. There is a part of this story that matters to what we are discussing. I am going to return to that research later. Not because science can replace faith. It cannot. But because understanding the mind can help us stop calling every struggle a spiritual failure. So hold this question. What if part of what you have called a spiritual block has a much more ordinary address? Because if the receiver is overloaded, the answer is not always another message. Sometimes the first act of faith is making enough room to hear what you already know. Chosen one. Now we can name the next layer. Resistance is not one thing. That is why treating every hesitation the same way keeps you confused. Some resistance is warning, some resistance is fog, some resistance is fear standing at the edge of growth. I call this sacred friction. Not because every obstacle is sacred, because friction can reveal what kind of response the moment actually requires. The first kind is a red light. Facts tell you to stop. A promise was broken, a condition changed. New information makes the old plan unsafe or unwise. In that moment, wisdom does not prove itself by pushing harder. The second kind is fog. You do not have enough clarity yet. Your mind is crowded. Important information is missing. This is where slowing down can be useful. Because a decision made inside confusion can create more confusion. The third kind is the fear gate. You know enough. The next step is available. Nothing essential is missing. But action would expose you to rejection, responsibility, visibility, or change. These three forms of friction can feel similar inside the body. That is why you need a process. Stop, sort, step. First, stop. Stop collecting new input for a moment. Stop asking 5 more people. Stop reopening the same decision every hour. Give the question enough silence to become one question again. Then sort. Separate fact from fear. Separate what you know from what you imagine. Separate what belongs to today from what belongs to a future you cannot control yet. Then, step. Choose the smallest, honest action that matches what is already clear. Send the message. Draft the first page. Make the appointment. Close the tab. Say no. Say yes. Do one thing that turns insight into movement. This is where an old word becomes useful. Metanoia means a change of mind, a turning of understanding that changes direction. It is not simply feeling inspired. A changed mind eventually changes the way you walk. That is why the next step matters so much. You do not prove clarity by how intense the feeling becomes. You prove clarity by whether it can organize action. Choose one decision you have delayed. Only one. Do not solve your whole life right now. Name the next action that is fully available to you within the next day. If resistance rises, ask which kind it is. Red light, fog, fear gate. Do not punish yourself for the answer. Just identify it accurately. This is where many long waiting seasons begin to change. Not because every external obstacle disappears, but because you stop adding internal confusion to an external problem. If this is your moment, use the words, "Resistance breaks here." Let those words mean that confusion no longer gets to call itself wisdom without being examined. Now remember the research question I asked you to hold. We are almost there. But there is one missing piece before I bring it forward. Why does insight remain insight? Why can a person know exactly what needs to change and still remain motionless? Why can someone receive confirmation, feel relief, and then return to the same pattern by morning? The missing piece is not more inspiration. It is the condition from which the decision is being made. That is where the receiver becomes more than a metaphor, and that is where the next part of this message begins. Chosen one, we have reached the missing piece. You have seen the road. You have seen the story you attach to the road. You have seen the noise that can build inside the receiver. Now, we need to make the whole pattern plain. Why does insight remain insight? Why can you understand something deeply and still fail to move? Why can a message feel completely true at night, then lose its power by morning? The answer is not always that you need more faith. It is not always that the direction was wrong. Sometimes the decision is being made from a state that is overloaded, fragmented, tired, or afraid. That matters because clarity is not just having the correct sentence in your mind. Clarity is being able to hold what matters long enough to organize behavior around it. This is the why. You may have confused lack of certainty with lack of direction, so every time discomfort appeared, you searched for another sign. Every new sign gave temporary relief, but it did not remove the habit of reopening the decision. Now the what? You need a cleaner receiving condition. That means reducing unnecessary input. It means separating facts from fears. It means giving one decision enough uninterrupted attention to become clear. It also means taking care of the physical conditions that support thought. Rest matters. Stress matters. Attention matters. The way your mind coordinates information matters. None of that replaces prayer. None of it proves that every spiritual experience is neurological. It simply means that a human being receives spiritual, emotional, and practical information through a human mind. And now, the WHO. Who are you becoming through this? Not someone who never feels uncertain. Not someone who receives perfect signs on command. You are becoming someone who can test, discern, decide, and move without demanding total certainty first. That is a different identity. The immature version of being chosen collects confirmation. The mature version learns stewardship. The message may already be clear. The question is whether the receiver is. Remember the research question from earlier. I told you there was another way to look at mental clarity, one connected to how different parts of the brain work together. I waited until now because information is useful only when you understand the problem it is meant to address. You now understand the problem. It is not simply that you need another message. It is that knowing must become usable. Researchers studying the brain have shown that different regions contribute different strengths to how we perceive, organize, and respond to the world. What matters for this discussion is coordination. Your mind works through networks that communicate. Attention, memory, perception, language, and decision-making depend on systems working together rather than one isolated switch doing everything. That does not give us permission to make magical claims. It gives us a practical question. Can we support a clearer state in which attention and processing feel less scattered? There is a resource I will describe next that was built around that question. I want you to hear it in the same spirit as everything else here. As a tool, not a prophecy, not a replacement for God, not a substitute for sleep, medical care, wisdom, or personal responsibility. Before I name it, hold the contrast. You now know what has been blocking movement. You can see the door. The only question left is what you choose to do with the clarity you have. The mechanism is becoming clear. The door is visible. What remains is how to support the receiver while you walk through it. Chosen one, remember the question we have carried since the beginning. What if the sender was never the problem? What if the message was already there, but the receiver needed support before clarity could become movement? Earlier, I told you there was research connected to how the brain processes and coordinates information. Dr. Roger Sperry received the Nobel Prize in 1981 for split brain research that helped reveal important differences between the two hemispheres. The deeper point for us is simple. One side is not good while the other is bad. Coordination matters. And that leads to a practical question. What happens when a person feels mentally scattered for so long that the scattered state starts feeling normal? A woman from California described living that way. She carried responsibility for other people and kept moving through each day, but she still felt like life was happening around her. She tried spiritual practices and different routines, yet the fog remained familiar. After using the resource I am about to describe, she reported a clearer internal channel and less mental pressure. Her problems did not vanish. What changed was her sense that she could respond instead of only react. A man from Texas described another version of the same struggle. He was carrying work, family, and important decisions at the same time. He had lived with mental fog for so long that he barely noticed it anymore. After using the same resource consistently, he said his thinking felt more organized and decisions became easier to hold. His experience is not a guarantee for anyone else, but it explains why this tool caught my attention. The resource is called the Genius Switch. It was developed by a team led by Dr. Daniel Barone in New York, and it is presented as an 8-minute targeted auditory sequence built around neural sync technology and whole brain activation. The routine is simple: headphones, eyes closed, 8 minutes a day. No complicated ritual is required. The team positions it as different from a meditation app or a generic relaxation track. Their claim is that the sequence is designed to support coordinated brain activity rather than simply create a temporary mood. This is where discernment matters. The Genius Switch is not for everyone. It is for the chosen one who is finished treating mental fog like a character flaw and is willing to support clarity while still taking responsibility for decisions. The offer described in the product material is $39. The listed price is $49, and the purchase includes 4 bonuses along with lifetime access. Those bonuses include a guided visualization, a smart grocery shopping guide, a classic manifestation book offered as a bonus, and a printable guide built around 5 daily habits. The product material also describes a money-back guarantee. That matters because a tool should be judged by your own experience, not accepted because someone wrapped it in spiritual language. If this resource resonates with you, the direct information is in the description and in the pinned comment. Read the details for yourself. Make your own decision. Do not act because you feel pressured. And keep this clear: a tool does not replace God. A tool does not replace obedience. It does not choose your next step for you. What it can do is support the condition from which you make that step. The deeper message remains the same. Clarity becomes powerful only when it becomes movement. Chosen one, now we return to the deeper current. The tool was never the destination. The destination is the person you become when clarity stops being something you admire and starts becoming something you practice. This is the last reroute. It is not the road changing outside you. It is not another message arriving from somewhere else. It is the way you see yourself when the moment finally asks you to move. For a long time, you may have lived as a collector of signs. You noticed patterns. You searched for meaning. You asked for confirmation because you wanted to avoid getting it wrong. But there comes a point when discernment must become stewardship. A message that never changes, a decision, eventually becomes another thing you consumed. So ask a different question now. Not, why did this take so long? Ask, who did the delay require me to become? Maybe the delay taught you boundaries. Maybe it exposed dependence on approval. Maybe it forced you to separate urgency from importance. Maybe it showed you how fear can borrow the language of wisdom. None of that means every delay was sent by God. It means you can refuse to let what happened remain meaningless. You can extract wisdom without inventing a prophecy. That is, the last reroute. The final movement happens in identity. You stop being the person who needs perfect certainty before one faithful step. You stop reopening every decision because fear asks a new question. You stop confusing endless preparation with obedience. And you become a discerner, a steward, a person who can hold uncertainty without surrendering direction. Picture what that looks like in ordinary life. Tomorrow, you send the email you have rewritten 10 times. You finish the application that has been sitting half complete. You say no where you have been saying maybe. You begin the project before confidence feels complete. You make the call. You set the boundary. You give one focused hour to the work you keep saying matters. None of those actions look spectacular. That is why they matter. Real change often enters quietly before anyone else can see it. You do not need a dramatic sign to answer a clear responsibility. You need enough clarity to choose the next available step. Then, enough courage to let that step be enough for today. If the resource described earlier stirred something in you, that information remains in the description and pinned comment. Examine it for yourself. But remember what we established. No resource can perform your obedience. No tool can make your decision. No purchase can substitute for the moment when you stop waiting and choose. This is why I do not want you leaving this message merely feeling inspired. Inspiration is beautiful, but it fades. I want you to name one action, not 5, not your entire future. One action. What is the step you already know? The message you need to send, the conversation you need to begin, the page you need to write, the boundary you need to hold. Notice what happens when you name it. Your mind may immediately create 10 reasons to delay. Do not fight every reason. Return to the framework. Stop. Sort. Step. Is there a real red light? Is there missing information that creates genuine fog? Or are you standing at the fear gate with enough truth to move? If it is fear, let fear come with you. Courage does not require its absence. And before this message ends, I want to speak one declaration over the version of you who no longer needs another sign to take the next faithful step. Because the road may still change, people may still disappoint you, but the receiver does not have to return to the old pattern whenever uncertainty appears. You can become someone who receives clearly, tests wisely, and moves faithfully. That is the reroute that no closed door can take away from you. Chosen one, this is where the message becomes quiet. You need a moment to let what became clear settle into the part of you that chooses. If it is safe, close your eyes for a moment. Let your shoulders soften. Let your breathing return to its natural rhythm. Simply notice that you are here. Now picture 3 roads behind you. One was delayed, one changed without your permission, one kept asking to be understood. Do not repair those roads in your imagination. Do not pretend every loss was secretly good. Just see them for what they were. Real disappointment, real learning. Now watch those roads meet at the place where you are standing today. Not because every event was planned as a sign, because nothing you survived has to remain meaningless. Place one hand over your chest if that feels natural. Take one slow breath. Ask yourself one question. What is my next clear step? Do not ask for the whole map. Do not ask for next year. Ask for the next faithful step that is already available. This is the moment we close the question that opened everything. Why did this have to reach you by the long way around? Maybe you will never know every reason. You do not need to. What you know is that after the delays, the doubts, and the searching, you are here with the power to choose your response. A message only matters when it becomes movement. So release the need for perfect certainty. Release the need for one more confirmation. Release the belief that every delay is rejection. Release the shame you attach to mental fog. Release the identity of the one who only waits. You have waited before. You have started again before. And you are still here. Now let these words become your declaration. Say them slowly inside yourself, or speak them aloud if you can. I am clear. I am discerning. I am responsible for my next step. I do not need perfect certainty to move in faith. I can test what I receive. I can honor what is true. I am chosen to steward what I receive. I do not collect truth only to admire it. I let truth organize the way I live. And when the road changes, I will not immediately call myself abandoned. When a door closes, I will examine before I conclude. When clarity comes, I will move. If this is your declaration, leave these final words, sealed and sent. Not as a performance. Let them mark the decision that you will no longer confuse endless waiting with faithfulness. The message has reached you. What happens next belongs to your choices, your discernment, your courage, and your relationship with God. You do not need to prove that every reroute was divine. You only need to refuse to waste what the reroutes taught you. One clear step, one honest decision, one faithful movement. It is sealed. Amen.